Zweig Group invites all AEC industry leaders to the 2024 AEC Small Business and Entrepreneurship Forum, the premier event for small firms in the AEC sector. Experience innovative strategies and insights on May 21st, crafted by Zweig Group's industry experts. Engage in keynotes and interactive sessions focused on recruitment, retention, and business growth. Join Zweig Group for this unique networking opportunity and take your business to new heights. Secure your spot today and be part of the AEC industry's future. Visit zweiggroup.com for more information. The Zweig Group team looks forward to welcoming you.
Welcome to the Zweig Letter Podcast, putting architectural, engineering, planning, and environmental consulting experts straight talk in your ear. These podcasts deliver great interviews with industry leaders and Zweig Group's 3 decades of invaluable research, leadership, management, marketing, client, and HR advice directly to you, free of charge. The Zweig Letter Podcasts let you develop personally and professionally, wherever you are.
Hey folks, it's Randy Wilburn here from the Zweig Letter Podcast. So excited to bring you another high quality episode. This is actually a 2-part series that we're doing. We're calling it Market Sector Madness. I had a chance to sit down and talk with Will Schnier at length right before Thanksgiving, and we had a great discussion about the difference between a geographic office setup as opposed to a market sector office setup for the design industry, and what firms are doing from a market sector approach as opposed to a location-based team setup. And Will had some really great insight to share and some great information. We actually had a chance to talk about a whole lot of things in the hour and 20-minute conversation that we had, and it was so good we decided to cut it into 2 episodes, and this is the first of the 2 episodes, and I hope you enjoy it. And I do look forward to getting your feedback on this, and definitely listen to part 2 next week, where we continue to talk about the benefits of a market sector approach to running your design firm, and also just some great advice from the Management A to Zweig book, and how firms can be successful just by even the smallest amount of advice that you get from any of the experts in the industry that are providing firms with guidance and training in terms of being operating their firms more efficiently. So I hope you enjoy this. Certainly look forward to your feedback. And here it is, part 1 of Market Sector Madness with Will Schnier. Hey everyone, and thank you for joining us for another episode of the Zweig Letter Podcast. Our goal is to bring you some of the best and brightest minds that the AEC industry has to offer. Today, I am with none other than Will Schnier, CEO of Big Red Dog Engineering, based in Austin, Texas. Will, it's great to have you back on the show again. Your episodes have been some of the most popular ever on the Zweig Letter Podcast. You've helped to raise the standard of our podcast, and so we really appreciate that. How are you doing today?
I'm doing very well. Thank you for having me.
Yes,
it's Thanksgiving week. We all have much to be thankful for, this industry and in our ability to work with each other, our firms, and it's been a wonderful year for us, and I'm sure there's much more to come and be thankful for. But I'm really, really blessed and very thankful this week for everything we've done this year.
Hey, that's all right, man. I like to hear that. Yeah, that's you hit the nail right on the head. It is a time to be thankful. That was one of my posts that I put out on Instagram this morning, is just as a reminder for everybody that in the busyness of life, sometimes we have to stop and smell the roses. And this is certainly a week to do that with family and good food and fellowship and all the stuff that goes along with that. So thank you for that simple reminder. We definitely need it. It's been a minute since we last had you on the program, and it's because you guys have been busy there at Big Red Dog, expanding and growing, and just busy in general. I know you have a ton of clients and a lot of work to be done. I had the benefit with another colleague of mine, Bill Murphy, to attend a special event that you just held recently in Houston, Texas, which was a lot of fun. We were at an ice house, which I had to look up. I was like, well, what is an ice house? And I guess down in Texas, they have a number of ice houses down there for more like, it's a glorified name for a brewery or a brew pub. But we hung out at an ice house down there, which was about, 10 minutes from our hotel. But it was a lot of fun and got a chance to see your people interacting with their clients and just with their other colleagues and really, really, really cool to see, a growing, thriving firm doing well and having fun at the same time, which is something that you don't always see in this industry. So I'm glad. First of all, I really appreciated the invite to the event, and I'm really glad that you guys are doing so well right now.
Well, I'm glad you could make it and see how we do things down here in Texas and in the ice houses. And you got to see a little bit of our company culture too. I know you guys got to spin the prize wheel that everyone gets to spin at their anniversary with the firm. Bill got a Yeti. There were a lot of other real cool things on the prize wheel, but from everything we've heard, the event went very well, and folks had a wonderful time. And we take ourselves seriously 90% of the time. The 5 or 10% we get to relax and cut loose and show appreciation for our folks who enable Big Red Dog to be what they are, and the clients who allow us to serve them. It's really, really gratifying and rewarding that we're able to do that and that you were able to participate in it. So I'm very glad you were there. Thank you, Randy.
Oh, no problem. My pleasure. Next year, I'm hoping for the Yeti cooler, so we'll see what happens. So I also, on another note, I also thought of you. I was in a presentation in Houston. That's one of the reasons why we were there, doing a leadership training, and one of the people at the presentation had a Buc-ee's cup. So I told the story about Buc-ee's, about my experience with Buc-ee's, how you introduced it to me. And I also mentioned how the first time I took my kids there, they would not leave for over an hour. And that was, more than a notion. I guess they just opened up some really big Buc-ee's in the Katy area there in Houston. Yeah. So, and it's a big deal. But anyway, I was just sharing with the audience, and they got a kick out of that. And for those of you that are listening to this podcast, wondering what Buc-ee's is, just look it up, BUCCES.com, I think, but just look it up. It is the Walmart of rest stations, the biggest gas station that you will ever see, and the biggest rest stop that you will ever experience, with a little bit of everything. So it was a lot of fun to talk about that, and I certainly have you to thank, because you guys were the ones that turned us on to it, and the Buc-ee's Nuggets. So yeah, big shout out to those guys.
I know if I put a bag of Buc-ee's Nuggets in front of you, it's not going to last very long.
No, not at all. Not
sugar
at all.
Is a dangerous thing, Randy.
It is. That's the truth for sure. So. That is the truth. So listen,
when you talk about blue ocean strategy, talk about what Buc-ee's did in terms of reinventing the gas station game, focusing on clean bathrooms, unlimited pumps, 130,000 square foot gas station. Where would you ever see anything like that? Is that pro forma even work? And these have to be the most profitable gas stations I've ever seen. They sell the bathrooms, and then, there's 100+ gas pumps out there, so you never have to wait. And you'll pass 50 gas stations to go another 70 miles and get to the Buc-ee's.
You are not lying. That
gas
is the
station,
case.
it feels like you need a shopping cart too.
Yeah.
It's a blue ocean strategy right there.
Yeah, you are. And it's funny that you bring that up. I mean, that was something that we talked about in our leadership training, the blue ocean strategy, which I have to give Ozzie Nelson props for introducing it to me. And then I had to go read the book, and now I've read Blue Ocean Shift. But you are absolutely right. Buc-ee's found a path of least resistance, and they are competing with no one right now. I mean, they are on a whole nother level when it comes to rest stops. And you're absolutely right. If I needed gas, but I knew I could make it an extra 75 miles just to just to go to a Buc-ee's, I would do it in a heartbeat. So, you are absolutely right. And it's funny we say this and we kind of laugh about that kind of stuff, but the reality is that the market will dictate and tell you what people really want. And sometimes if you take a moment to listen and observe and create new opportunities, the market will respond in kind. And I think they are doing just that for Buc-ee's, as they actually are for firms in the design industry that are going against the trend and offering up services and, packaging things up differently than the way firms have done historically.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. It's a great role model, and you wouldn't think you'd find that in the service station or the gas station business, and they do it right.
Yeah,
that's for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So having you on this podcast several times, and I lose track, I think it's either the third or the fourth time that we've had you on. We've had a chance to talk about everything from recruiting to marketing to how you got the name for your company. Today, we want to talk a little bit about some of the benefits of operating your company from a market sector approach versus a geographical based firm, which we still see a lot of firms in the design industry operating that way, where, each office is its own separate profit center. And, you almost have this silo approach to running a company where you have these little mini fiefdoms in different parts of the country, depending on how many locations a firm would have. But talk a little bit about your experience with this whole market sector approach, and how it's benefited Big Red Dog, and your biggest takeaway from this aspect.
Okay. Well, prior to about 15 months ago, we were a geographic based firm, and silos or fiefdoms would be a great term or set of terms to use for how we were operating. We started the firm 2009 with a geographic office, one office. And as we grew, each office did what you just stated. They became their own profit center. And about 5 years into it, it got further convoluted because we started adding additional disciplines, engineering disciplines into the firm. We started as a civil engineering firm, primarily a land development firm. And then we've over time added mechanical, electrical, and plumbing engineering. We added structural engineering. We added transportation and traffic engineering. And then in each office, each discipline became its own silo and fiefdom. So in the Austin office, for example, it could have just as easily have been 4 companies. It could have been a civil engineering firm, a traffic firm, MEP firm, and a structural engineering firm. And what that did, and what that effectively does, is by creating silos, there's a decrease in motivation to share work between offices. You're unable to take advantage of the full scale of your firm. Yes, you're diluting overhead across the same multiple profit centers. But when I talk about unable to take advantage of scale, the civil engineers in one office aren't talking to the civil engineers 150 miles away in another office. And they're unable to share market intelligence, much less clients and workload and everything else that goes along with that. And ultimately, it stagnated our growth for a period, which is why we considered and ultimately moved into a market structure. So we went from, Austin civil engineering, Austin traffic engineering, Austin structural engineering, Austin MEP engineering, and repeat the same in San Antonio, Dallas, and Houston. So effectively, we were 8 to 12 profit centers, all geographically siloed, instead of operating as a 100-plus person firm with almost $16 million in revenue. We were $500,000 to $2 million companies, all owned by a parent company, without any ability to cross-pollinate and take advantage of each other's market presence. When we moved to the market structure, and we can talk about lessons learned in a minute. I'll jump right to where we are today. Our market structures today are residential land development, commercial land development, public infrastructure, which includes civil engineering and transportation engineering, And then our fourth one is our vertical building systems group, which is our structural and MEP engineering group. And so those four market structures today are the only four profit centers in the company. They span in all cases our geographic locations. We have 6 offices today. When we started the market structure, we had 4. We still have 4 disciplines, but traffic and transportation falls in our public infrastructure vertical, and then MEP and structural are in our vertical building systems sector. And that doesn't mean those are hard lines there. We say there's a silk screen between the market sectors, that just because you're in one market sector doesn't mean you're working on projects from another market sector or on a project team where a project lives in another market sector. And there have been lessons learned, and there have been growing pains moving into this structure. But just in the last, I said we're 12 to 15 months into it. Just in the last, 3 to 4 months, do you start to see the slingshot effect that it's having? We've been able to open a 5th and 6th office in Texas, where prior to the market structure, for us to open a new office, we had to put all the infrastructure in the geographic location to make the office sustainable. Work winner, the project managers, the project engineers, the designers. Now we can put the work winner, who doubles as the project manager, in a new office, and immediately he has a team of 40 or 50 people within his market spread throughout the company. It automatically enhances work sharing between geographic locations, because the team is no longer, Team A is no longer 5 people in Austin, 3 people in San Antonio, 6 in Houston, and 4 in Dallas. The team is all of those people together. And the project managers are local, but the production level people really can work on any project in the company at any time, regardless of where they're sitting. This allows us to do a couple of things that are near and dear to my heart. It allows for rapid geographic expansion. We don't need to build out a whole office. We just need to find the guy who can win and manage the work in an office. And as he wins more, we can start supporting him with local talent. But more importantly, it allows us to find talent where it lives. Randy, you're in the recruiting game when you're not hosting the Zweig Letter Podcast. And you and I work on that together. We know how painful recruiting is. Our industry obviously goes in cycles, but we're at a hot market, top of the market type condition, and recruiting is incredibly tough. If you told me, go find me a 15-year project manager in Dallas right now, I'd need a year to do it. It's not going to happen. If you told me, find me a new graduate and put him in Dallas, I can do that all day long. Now we are, talk about any of those positions, a senior hydrologist, a senior structural engineer with experience in post-tension concrete, electrical engineer who specializes in high-rise office buildings in a urban downtown setting. We can't afford to put one of those specialties in every office, but we can certainly afford 1 or 2 across the company that feed off of the work within the whole firm. And it doesn't matter where that guy's sitting. He can be in Austin. He can be in Fayetteville for all I care. If he's in Fayetteville, we'll just start a Fayetteville office and hang a shingle, and he still has the weight of 100 people behind him. So it allows us to find that talent where it lives, and it allows for rapid geographic expansion. It allows for work to be shared across multiple offices, which mitigates market risk in a specific geographic location. And, when you combine all of these things, it also allows for fewer heads at the top who are running the individual profit center. So instead of having 8 to 12 people running a profit center who each had a number 2, we have 4 profit centers with 4 people in charge of them who each have 2 or 3 or 4 deputies that we call market leaders in the geographic locations. So it certainly streamlined our leadership structure as well, which, when that happens, you get economies of scale, decisions get made faster, there's more consistent experience for the employees and the clients, and the whole organization becomes a whole lot more predictable and rhythmic instead of having 12 people, all trying to run their own vertical, without the help of the other people in the company. So the market structure has had growing pains, and you can ask me questions about that, and I'll be very honest with you. But all things considered, it's really provided some positive things that I have great enthusiasm in looking forward to how that plays out as we continue to grow as a firm and within the market structure.
Okay. Well, man, I mean, that's a lot of information in terms of just kind of where things are right now. And yeah, I do have a ton of questions, but just really a couple that kind of stand out in my mind. And I'd be curious to know what did you think was going to be the biggest challenge in undertaking a market sector approach that ended up not being an issue at all? And what has been a challenge for you?
I thought it was going to be a big challenge undoing the geographic fiefdoms and the service line fiefdoms where, remember we had 12 guys who were essentially all the president and vice presidents of their own business, moving into 4, market directors that essentially become the president and vice president of those businesses. And I thought we were going to have a big challenge delivering that message and getting the egos of our leaders to accept the new structure and actually get behind it instead of become defeated by it or fight against it. Randy, my whole family just walked in the house.
Oh, that's no problem. That's no problem.
So you can edit this if you hear beeps and things.
Yeah, no worries.
But in reality, that was less of a concern and really a non-concern. People really adjusted to that very well. That doesn't mean all 12 people that were in the top are still in those positions or even still with the firm. Unfortunately, 3 or 4 of them are no longer with the firm, and we're better off as a firm, and I firmly believe that they're better off in their new endeavors. That was all handled, fairly and equitably, those separations. But we were clogged at the top, which slowed decision making and was stagnating growth. And moving to the market structure and realigning the leadership team was not as nearly the challenge that I anticipated it to be. The bigger challenge by far was at the lower levels of the organization, getting the project engineers and the project designers to understand that their team was no longer the team that they can see with their 2 eyes. It was, the much larger team that spans the firm. You'll take our commercial market sector, for example. Russell Yeager is an excellent leader of that group. But under him, Russell has Brad Lingby, who's a major shareholder in the firm, company co-founder, member of the board of directors. Brad runs his largest office in Austin for the commercial team. It's 15, 20 people. But how powerful is it for Russell to have a guy like Brad as his number 2, that he doesn't have to worry about, a significant portion of his market because he knows Brad has it locked down and under control. That allows Russell to focus on some of the younger market leaders in Houston and San Antonio and Dallas, younger or less experienced than Brad in this case, and really lend his mentorship and his leadership and training to them. So in terms of a management perspective, it's worked out well. But at the lower team levels, the harder challenge has been convincing the people under Brad and the people under Patrick and the people under Taylor and Jennifer that, hey, just because you feel like you're overwhelmed now, don't feel like you have to give all this work to these 5 people right in front of you. There's 15 other people or 25 other people in these other 3 offices that can do exactly what you need. Just pick up the phone and coordinate it and make it happen. And that's been the biggest challenge.
Okay. Now, are you guys using any special software to do this, or have you found something that has become useful for the organization in terms of making sure, from a collaboration perspective, that everybody has enough on their plate to do, and what has worked for you guys?
just old-fashioned telephone, email, Google Hangouts. There's a lot of Skype meetings, a lot of go-to meetings. We did make a massive IT upgrade concurrent with the restructuring that allows project files to be shared seamlessly. All of our files are taken care of by Amazon Web Services. So you can open, if you're sitting in Dallas, you can open a file from the Houston office or from the Austin office as if it was already there. And that was a significant IT investment. And video conferencing. Each office is networked in the conference rooms for video conferencing. And we're still tweaking that. And, every year new technology comes out and newer, bigger, better video conferencing technologies. I would love, my dream at this point, knowing what I know about video conference technology, is just to have constantly cameras on in each office so you can look at 4 screens or 5 screens in the Austin office and see exactly what's happening in the other offices. And if I need to talk to somebody there, I can just walk into the conference room, the video's already on, and start talking immediately. Not the 10 minutes of trying to get the IT to work.
That's cool. Yeah, I mean, this is almost the perfect time to do this because there is so much great technology out there that affords you that opportunity to share files, things that you couldn't even do 5 or 10 years ago, as far as that's concerned, because the size of some of your project files, I imagine, would be very large. And because of that, back in the day, it would have been very difficult to share those across offices. That's right. And it'll be different by the end of next year, what we're doing. That's a big challenge in our industry, is keeping up with the pace of change of technology. Yeah, no, absolutely, no. Well, that's really, I love hearing how this is all coming about, and I'm just curious to know, have you guys decided on, or have you had some type of company-wide event where you've gotten everybody together? Have you seen the need to do that, or do people feel like, even with the technology being what it is and the ability for people to stay in contact through Google Hangout and GoToMeeting and the conference rooms that are fully equipped with all the new technology, do they feel connected with each other, or have you figured out other ways to have real face-to-face time with the different team members?
The latter. Left to the technology alone, it would take longer to implement. Each of the 4 markets that I described, commercial, residential, public, and vertical, each of them has an annual retreat where they'll spend, a morning in a conference room at a hotel or a conference facility, and they'll go through their business plan, they'll go through their projects, they'll give team member recognition awards for exceptional effort by team members, for client recognition awards if the clients submitted a raving fan survey review. And then typically the afternoon will be more of a team building event. And Topgolf is a favorite location. There's a Topgolf in every city we're in. And so they love going to Topgolf. There's there's one in the Domain that they like a lot, Social Junkie or Social Hour or something like that, but it's a bunch of paid games and things like that. And then this year, or every year, we do a company-wide Christmas party, and it's typically after Christmas in early January. After the rush of the holidays is over, all your family's out of town, and you can actually think about going to an office Christmas party. A lot of them tend to be, attended previously at my previous jobs. They tend to be poorly attended because they were always between Thanksgiving and Christmas. And, with kids and babysitters and out of town family, it was always tough to make work. So we've always done our Christmas party after the holidays. And this year we're doing it in Green, Texas, which is located between Austin and San Antonio. And it's got a great dance hall and country music, live music type venue there. And so the theme of it is red and green, big red dog in Green, Texas. And all the offices are coming together. The Austin and San Antonio offices are close enough that they're chartering buses but the other offices will get hotel rooms and be able to spend the night.
Okay, cool. Now,
If you hear my son in the background in your tape, he's having lunch right now. I don't know if you'll be able to pick that up.
That's all good. We all have to eat, Will. It's not a problem. I mean, this podcast is a real world podcast because people have to understand.
Friendly, right?
Yeah, it is absolutely family friendly. So, without a doubt, no, that's not a problem at all. So it sounds like you guys have this whole process pretty well under control. And right now, the biggest issue for you, more so than anything else, is just making sure you have the right people in the right places, which I can imagine having the wrong people in the wrong places really can mess things up.
That's, it's a people business. What are we at the end of the day, if not brokers of talent between our clients and our team members? My business partner, Ricky, likes to say, we're a very well compensated waiter. We're in the service business, which is a people business. But we've kind of modified that to say, really, we broker, technical skills by individual people on behalf of individual clients. And it very much is a people business. And we are fortunate and blessed to have 115 plus excellent people on the team. Some of the growing pains associated with the market structure were mostly communication based, and very limited cases, but less than a handful of people who just didn't like the change, just didn't like the fact that there was going to be more work sharing between offices and bringing together of the company, and that's fine. Companies change as they grow. The folks who are involved from 0 to 10, bring a skill set that's incredibly valuable, and then you need some different skill sets from 20 to 50. And as we got to 100, and as we're trying to get to 200 or 300, we're going to need different skill sets. I'm going to need different skills. I'm going to need different ways of analyzing situations. Ultimately, as we continue to grow, the company may get bigger than me as the CEO, and that's perfectly fine. I'm quite honest about that. If I do my job as the best I can, the company will outgrow me, and someone else is going to have to come in and take this seat. To me, that's a tremendous, honor and feather in my cap that, I can get something that big that it outruns my level of competence. The challenge is to, keep making myself sharper so that doesn't happen, but translate that all the way down through every level of the organization, and our shareholders get that very much. Our management team gets that very much. We have some of the smaller shareholders or even non-shareholders, because of their experiences and the way they think about the business and what they bring to the table from a management perspective, have an outsized voice compared to perhaps their ownership share in the company. And as an ownership team, that's what we want. We want the best people in here we can get. And we must be egoless as we pursue those people, to understand that, Will Schnier's status or the next partner's status is much less important than the health of the company and the financial security of the people who work for the company. This isn't a company built for Will Schnier's success or one of the other 13 partners' success. This is a company built, to build something that's creating value and creating security for the folks who work here, and ultimately for the clients who trust us with their projects. And without that mentality, I'm not sure a whole company reorganization is successful or is even possible, much less, growth. Trying to grow, 10x in revenue and people in 10 years is it requires a mindset like that.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, I love hearing that. It's one of the things that we mentioned in our leadership training is that even as leaders, if we're not trying to make way for somebody else to take over for what we're doing, then there really is no real growth. I tell people all the time that you can't stay in one position for forever. You have to make room for others to see what the real potential is. And if it's always this glass ceiling that exists, whether real or imagined, then that stifles real growth and creativity, and you really miss out on seeing what could be. So
that you're absolutely right. There's plenty of examples. Didn't I know it was perhaps more ethical, but didn't the Uber CEO just build the second most valuable company in the world, and the company more valuable than Marriott, and companies like that, and he just got removed from his own firm. You look at the Google founders, they actually both of them got removed as co-CEOs early on. They brought in Eric Schmidt, and eventually one of them took it back over once they matured. But even Zuckerberg, fact check me here, Randy. I know you're a business junkie too, but I think his board made him bring in Sheryl Sandberg if he wanted to stay CEO or something like that. That's a fact of life in this business. There's value that needs to be created, and there's value that needs to be protected, and they both need to happen. Or we stay a 50-person or 100-person firm and make sure, what do you have then? You're not building a business, you're creating your own job, right? And so different ways of looking at it, I guess.
Yeah, and that point you just brought up about the 50 or 100-person firm and owning a job as opposed to owning a business is still very real and very prevalent in the design space. We talk to people to this day. This is 2017 that still feel like that is the route that they want to go. And then they start talking about shareholder value and wanting to be able to have something to give to the next generation. And, the conversation ends fairly abruptly because we explain to them that with the mindset that you have, it's the antithesis of growth, of real growth, and of looking at opportunities that would allow you to kind of take your firm to the next level. And it just doesn't happen that way. And so, you almost have to be intentional about it. And it sounds like you guys are really taking an intentional approach here to really grow this thing and essentially knock the cover off the ball in the process. And a lot of firms, even some of your competitors, aren't necessarily willing to do that. And it's unfortunate for the industry as a whole. I mean, it certainly is good for Big Red Dog, but it's too bad that some firms don't understand this process. And I'd be curious just to kind of pick up on one other thing with regard to the young people that you guys are bringing in. And I know that you've had a fairly decent time of hiring new, younger folks to join Big Red Dog. What is their take on this whole, market sector approach? And are they gravitating towards it, and are they embracing it fairly easily at the onset when they join your firm?
Yes, our culture and our branding is powerful enough that we have our choice, and our internship program is excellent too. I think every 3 months we have 16 to 18 new interns throughout the company, which gives us our pick of the litter for new graduates. Internship programs are nice because you can train them as graduate engineers. They get to do graduate engineer level work. But you're training them while they're still in school, and typically, a fraction of what you'd be training them at as a new graduate with full-time salary and benefits. That when they get to come into the firm from our internship program to having full salary and benefits, they hit the ground running and they're ready to go. There is very little integration at that point. They know everything about the firm. We run an open book management firm, so even as interns, they get to see how the firm is performing financially and in a variety of other non-financial metrics related to marketing, HR, things like that. But by and large, new graduates really have never been in another office setting. This is their first professional office setting for these new graduates coming in and don't know any differently. When we talk about owners who have, building a job mindset and aren't trying to create growth opportunities and growth firms, the same naivety keeps young engineers there for 10, 15 years into their career before they realize, hey, all my friends have been made partners somewhere else. All my friends have skin in the game, and I'm still, going in for my annual review, hoping for a 3 to 5% raise and $1,000 bonus while the owner gets a new Beamer. And that naivety, works on both sides of the equation. For 4 years, Randy, no one had ever left us for a competitor. People had left town to go back to graduate school, to go back to where they came from. They got married and their spouse got a job somewhere else. They left the industry altogether, but they never left us for a competitor. About year 5, as our growth started becoming more visible, as our presence, particularly in Austin and San Antonio, became a number 1, number 2 type market presence, the recruiters started getting their hands into our people and promising them the moon. And so we weren't able to say that no one had ever left the firm for a competing firm at that point. But here we are, year 9, that's now been going on for 4 years. There are a dozen people who started with us out of school, got poached away for the promise of something bigger and better. And perhaps financially it may have been at the time, but culturally and the way it operates, apparently it wasn't, because they're now back at Big Red Dog. We talk about how tight the market is. What's the saying that used to hang in our grandmother's houses? If you love something so much, you have to let it go. And if it comes back to you, then it was rightfully yours. If you train these kids up and you give them the best that you can and you expose them to much of the business as you can, and when they take their chances somewhere else and they see, hey, not everything's like this. I'm in a Pepto-Bismol cubicle. I don't know how the firm's performing. I don't know about the folks around me. There's no growth opportunities. Then they realize perhaps what they gave up to take that opportunity. And, we'd be foolish not to welcome them back. We've already trained them. They know how we operate, and they become almost, walking HR billboards of, when their teammates are asking questions, why do you leave? Why do you come back? That's more powerful than any BS I can give them as a CEO, right. Trying to convince them not to leave.
Yeah. You can't script that any better. So.
If you're in the counteroffer game, why didn't you give them the right compensation the first time? It's so much better to, congratulate them on finding a good opportunity and tell them this door is open. You're welcome to come back here. And they will come back. If you're really doing something that's right and you're treating them right and they know that, they'll realize that and they'll be back soon enough. And almost a third of the people who have left us for a competitor have come back, and it's only been 3 or 4 years since that started happening. So that speaks to not only the culture but market structure and creating opportunities for our people. Without growth, there are no opportunities unless somebody leaves, and nobody wants voluntary turnover. Nobody wants somebody to voluntarily leave. That market structure allows for that, but company culture plays a big part in that too. If you have a strong culture, it doesn't matter how your organization is structured. A strong culture can win out at the end of the day. And Netflix has an excellent culture. Amazon's got a little more cutthroat, but still a very regimented and excellent culture that clearly works. Amazon's eating the world, right? Between, I said Amazon and Netflix, I think between the two of them, 95% of the web traffic after hours goes through Amazon or Netflix. Have you read that?
That's about right. Yeah, that sounds about right. So, and all that's on probably on Amazon's S3 server system. So, that's probably about accurate. So, hey folks, and thank you for listening to part 1 of Market Sector Madness. Stay tuned for part 2 next week. We think you won't want to miss it. Take care.
Thanks for tuning in to this Zweig Letter Podcast episode. If you want more wisdom and inspiration, in addition to information about M&A, strategic planning, HR, and marketing your firm, subscribe now to the digital version of the Zweig Letter free of charge. Just visit thezweigletter.com/subscribe and leave your email address. Your free subscription will begin immediately.